SANTACO is calling on police and transport authorities to crack down on illegal transport services. They say unlicensed operators are increasingly harassing drivers, including a recent attack on a motorist in Vanderbijlpark. SANTACO warns that mistreating people in private cars, lift clubs or e-hailing vehicles is wrong, and that unregulated transport is becoming a serious problem. Phala is SANTACO's national spokesperson and joins us now for more. Rebecca, good morning to you and welcome to the program. It's been 3 days since that incident in Vanderbijlpark. What else have you learned there, or what action specifically in regards to that incident has SANTACO taken as an organization?
Thanks, Iman. Good morning to you and the viewers. We find it to be incredibly regrettable that we continue to have elements of criminality that are being manifested effectively from the taxi industry, leading to civilians being violated, harassed, and harmed. What we've learned, you would remember when the video was shared on social media, we also learned that a case had been opened with the police in Vanderbijlpark, that we haven't on our side learned if the case has in any way progressed. However, on our end, immediately after we were made aware of the video, the national office had an engagement with the executive of the association. The patrollers in question on the video were identified and they were suspended from all operation, also to give the police enough time to do their own investigations and then sort of alert and also guide what the next steps would have to be. So that's as far as it's gone. On our end, the patrollers in question, as seen on that video footage, have been suspended from work.
Under whose instruction, Rebecca, do those patrollers work?
They work under the instructions of the taxi associations. Their mandate is to support fleet management in the form of overseeing whether our taxis are not overloading, that they are not operating perhaps in routes that they're not supposed to. So effectively, they complement taxi operations as mandated by taxi associations.
So did they go rogue, or is this an unspoken rule, attitude, approach amongst the taxi owners and the taxi organization that actually we don't want to see people transporting anyone in a vehicle, so take action and approach or attack drivers?
There is no such a rule. It would be incredibly irresponsible and also very wrong for the taxi industry to give instruction for patrollers or anyone really who works in the industry to go out and violate South Africans who are found to be fairing people in one way or another, and or also to violate people for their choice of transportation. Hence, we are calling them criminal elements, and we are saying that it is not an instruction of the industry for them to go and do this. It's a trend that appears to be growing. In fact, Iman, we're also starting to suspect that it's gaining prominence because they see that when it gets reported, we're speaking about it like we're doing now, and it doesn't ever appear that any action is being taken to sort of reprimand, and perhaps reprimand is an even softer word. But for those that engage in this criminality to be brought to book, it is not an instruction of the industry. No one has the authority to violate South Africans like that. We don't also have the authority to be stopping civilians. Only law enforcement has got that kind of authority as mandated by the government and the Constitution.
So will you say, because again, they seemed completely emboldened, and in other incidents where people have been pulled out of private vehicles, those patrollers or those individuals seem to be quite confident in their actions, and you see that action being copied or mimicked by others, whether it's at a taxi rank or wherever it might be, and taking part in these aggressive actions against private civilians. Will you say unequivocally this morning, in fact, will you post it at taxi ranks or wherever these patrollers work, that it is a stated principle of not only, you can only speak for SANTACO, a stated principle of SANTACO that you are not to approach private individuals in their private vehicles?
We have been doing that. In majority of our associations, we send continued communication. So it is a known fact, but definitely, Iman, it's not to say then that we're going to sit back and say we've told them. We will commit to you on this platform that we will continue to broaden the messaging that we've been giving to our associations, be it in the offices of the associations, be it in the taxi ranks, and just about everywhere where taxi operations take place, for our workers in particular to always know that we do not have any authority to violate South Africans. We are making that commitment.
And again, just to deal with the ambiguity of messages around this and the right of people in their cars to take a family member, people from their office or whatever to work in terms of lift clubs. What you're saying to us unequivocally this morning is that people in private cars who are transporting other people for whatever the reason, because as you say, you don't have the mandate or the right to approach a private individual, even ask them questions. That's the role of law enforcement. That you are tolerating people or allowing people to go about their business, that the taxi industry is not going to again, interfere with people's private choices inside their private vehicles to take people to work or whatever it is that they want to do.
Look, I think I prefer more when you say we should, and we are saying we are not going to interfere with South Africans' choice of public transport. We are not supposed to be interfering with South Africans' choice of public transport. I wouldn't want to say that we're going to tolerate and all, because that will give a sense of entitlement, which cannot be a true reflection of how things should be. The principle of an integrated public transport network speaks about there being different modes and the modes feeding each other, because there's always limitations in terms of who can get where and to what extent are they able to go to. So we are definitely again reiterating, and that's why you hear us not just condemning and leaving it at that, but also saying to law enforcement, please help us identify, and when cases are opened, investigate. We are quite convinced that if cases like the case that's been opened in Limpopo actually are watertight and they make a breakthrough, it will go a long way in showing other would-be criminals that they cannot do that to civilians in this country and get away with it.
Rebecca, when you talk about a sense of entitlement, what are you referring to?
So when you said that, are we committing to say we will tolerate other people's choices of modes of transport? I'm saying it's a word that may give a sense that we've got authority to tolerate. It's like it's an option that we have as an industry. I'm saying it would be unfortunate because it would make it seem like we are entitled to this work, and as such, we have the option to tolerate others from choosing different modes of transport. I'm saying we should rather say we will not interfere with people's choices of public transport. And that's why you've also heard us say we are concerned that in doing that, the reason why we're asking law enforcement to come closer to us and to the work of transportation is because South Africans, Iman, have started purchasing 7-seater vehicles. They don't get any documentation of permits and they start ferrying people. And that's the case in a majority of these instances. Does it justify us violating them? Absolutely not. Hence, we're asking law enforcement to please come on in. But we're also asking them to also protect the South Africans that use these 7-seaters out of not knowing. And they might just be in trouble if they get into accidents and or anything else, because these vehicles are not authorized with proper documentation to be ferrying them.
It goes to one of the points I mentioned in the introduction there, Rebecca, about illegal transport operations, which you were calling on police and the transport authorities to crack down on. Besides the 7-seater vehicles, which you've just explained now, what else falls into that category?
You know how just last year we had the regulations that effectively give a guide of how an e-hailing operator can operate their business in a legal manner. Some of the things they have to do is issues of ensuring that they apply for permits. Obviously, they would need to have their PRDPs. Some of the things that at the before then they didn't necessarily have, because the app companies were also not strict. So you've also got people like that who still operate as e-hailers, who do not have proper documentation, who don't face the same sort of challenges that your minibus operators would face, where if you don't have a operating license, because maybe government still has challenges of backlog, when law enforcement stops you, your vehicle gets impounded. And yet we don't see that happening also for those operating in e-hailing, for example. That other regulation about the importance of identification for their vehicles to have smaller stickers, also to help law enforcement know that this is an e-hailing vehicle. It doesn't seem to be making much progress, which also means that a lot more of them are likely to still be operating without proper documentation.
One of the other things that SANTACO has said and has been said variously is making that call to those who have been affected or victims to open criminal cases. And we saw in the Vanderbijlpark matter, somebody did in fact open a criminal case. What proactive steps are you taking? I mean, what action are you taking besides, I think you mentioned at the beginning that the patrollers were identified and suspended. What strong action are you taking as an organization proactively to stop the kind of violence that we saw?
So, Iman, we've identified that the recruitment process that we've been using as an industry to bring in employees has not always been watertight. So the people that get employed, be it as drivers, as patrollers, sometimes it would often just be a question of putting out a call, somebody is looking for a driver. Plus, our business is largely operated by sole proprietors. That, as a result, has seen us recruit people from practically all walks of life. And we're realizing that that is problematic. So SANTACO is rolling out a recruitment process that will have to tie in with existing systems of institutions like your departments of Home Affairs and many others that have got a database that often gives you an idea of who is who in this country. Do they have any criminal records? What do you know about them, so that you know who is it that you're bringing in to interface with ordinary South Africans. That's one of the things we're looking to tighten the recruitment process. But we also have training initiatives that we do as with assistance from institutions like the Transport Education Training Authority, where these people are often people who've got PRDPs and driver's licenses. Customer service issues are things that they don't necessarily have sufficient training in. Well, we've been doing that training. We're looking to heighten it further. Those are some of the initiatives that we're looking into.
Is there a hotline for people who find themselves caught in situations like that, Rebecca? I mean, who can the public go to directly to let SANTACO know either something has happened? And it's unfortunate because the only way that you can record this is when you are able to actually open up your phone. And we saw in that Vanderbijlpark video, I think the person who was recording in the passenger seat also tried to conceal their own phone for fear of perhaps being attacked themselves. But where is the recourse for the public who believes they've been hurt or unfairly treated, or in fact there's been criminal action, or they've been assaulted? Where can they go with regard to SANTACO?
Also in conversation, Imana must add, with private sector players that have got these sort of cameras that get installed in vehicles. And the idea is for the camera footage to then be fed to associations on a continued basis, which would help us not to only learn when a brave South African has publicized this on social media. It's going to need a lot of capital, but it's one of the things that we're also looking into. In terms of issues of recourse, yes, there is a hotline. The number is 012 321 1043, 012 321 1043. We ask that when South Africans give us that call, they give us just maybe the make of the vehicle, the name of the association, whatever writing that they can see on that car. If they are able to, if the registration plate, it will help us to quickly get to know which vehicle it is and who are the drivers there. All
right. Thank you very much for talking to us this morning. Appreciate it. SANTACO's national spokesperson, Rebecca Phala. And I want to put that number back up for you. We must try and get that out there as well. We'll repeat it towards the end of the program, 012 321 1043.